it's Penny here, and today we're going to be talking about the worst books that I read in 2020. Now, I have a reading spreadsheet where I rate all the books that I read against 5 different criteria, and then I average those up into my single star rating, which means that I have star ratings that include some amount of decimal points in them. So all I've done here is sort the spreadsheet by that rating, and we're going to go with the lowest ones. I actually have 3 that are all equal, so there's actually 11 books on this list. I was trying for 10, but it hasn't worked out. We're going to go with 11. And a few of these actually have the same rating, so they could go in any order. I'm just going to go with the order that Google Sheets has decided they go in, which isn't necessarily entirely right. Also, these ratings are based on how I felt when I finished the book and filled out the spreadsheet. And sometimes that changes over time, so it's not 100% accurate. It's all rather subjective as well. Definitely not scientific. So, let me tell you about the books. Number 11 is Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo. This is the second book in the Grishaverse, which I had put on my books that I wanted to read in 2020, but I was always kind of aware that maybe it wouldn't be the series for me. But this trilogy comes before the Six of Crows duology, which I'm also not sure is going to be for me, but it is very hyped, and so I would like to read it just so I know what the hell people are talking about when they reference those characters. So, I mean, I went into this with low expectations, and those expectations were met. So not exactly disappointing, but honestly, I was just so bored for the whole book. I couldn't care less about anything that was happening. I'm very glad that I was listening to the audiobook and not trying to read it physically, or I probably would have just put it down somewhere and forgotten that it even existed. As it was, I was able to listen to it while I did other things, so it wasn't so bad, but oh my god, it was so boring. And I really hope that series improves, or otherwise I'm not sure I'm going to make it through the duology. Next on the list at number 10 we have Stormfront by Jim Butcher. This is the first book in the Dresden Files, and honestly this is so forgettable that I can't remember everything I disliked about this. I do know that I didn't like the way that all the women seem very generic. Every single one is described as a different kind of beautiful, and they all are potential love interests for Harry, and I just don't care. I guess I should tell you what these books are about, right? In case you care. I mean, the Grishaverse is very popular fantasy, YA fantasy, where a girl discovers her powers. The Dresden Files is about a wizard named Harry Dresden who solves magical crimes. And it's kind of like that detective story, you know, where it's all very dark and mysterious, and this beautiful woman arrives at his agency asking for help. But just in general, I found the first book to be really boring. I didn't care about the mystery that he was trying to solve. I didn't think that things came together in a clever way, as I would expect in a mystery type crime solving story, and I hated the way that the women were written. So, not my favorite. Then at number 9 on this list we have Come Tumbling Down by Sean M. Maguire. So this is the 4th book, I think that's right, in the Wayward Children series, which is this series all about these children who have found magical doors into these magical worlds and then have found themselves back in the real world. Not being very happy about that, but luckily they've found this school, this halfway home where they can go and be with other people who are experiencing the same disappointment and helping them deal with that grief. Every second book in this series is one where we're set at the school and we're going on some kind of quest, there's some kind of mystery going on, and then every other one is like an origin story of some of those characters finding their doors. I like the stories where they find their doors a lot more. This one, I thought I might like it because it does follow some of my favorite characters, but I really hated it. I thought the plot was just like meandering everywhere. I hated every decision the characters made, and I normally like the social commentary that Sean M. Maguire fits into these stories, but this I felt like was just characters saying things that felt completely out of context, things they would never say, just so that Sean M. Maguire could hit these points, and it wasn't really hitting them in a clever way like she normally does, and I was so disappointed in it. So disappointed. Will I be continuing the series? Yes, because the next one is one where someone finds their door again, and that's probably going to be my favorite, but maybe I just need to start only reading every second book in this series. I don't know. Anyway, moving on. Number 8 on this list is Eleanor by Jason Gurley. I read this as part of my Ready to Go Reads reading project. So my library was doing this thing where you could order a bag of books and they would put a bag of random books together and you could just go and pick them up, keeping yourself relatively safe from COVID-19. So I went and got a bag of books and one of the books was Eleanor. It promised me time travel. I was super excited to read it. The very beginning, I loved all the characters. Some very traumatic stuff was happening to them. I was very emotionally invested. And then it just got really weird, but like often I like weird, but this was just weird in a completely pointless way. And the ending didn't really give me any satisfaction and ugh, what a waste of time. Then at number 7, we have The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. So this is the prequel to the Hunger Games trilogy where we follow President Snow and we find out about why he became the man, the villain that he is in the Hunger Games. But did we really find that out? No. Was there a romance that made zero sense? Yes. It just wasn't very exciting. I didn't feel like it really explained President Snow at all. And it never really even explained the Hunger Games and why those had come to be. Like in the Hunger Games trilogy, the Hunger Games almost makes sense. I feel like The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes should have made it make more sense, but it actually made it make less sense. And just honestly, what a pointless book. And it was way too long, like 500 pages or something. Really didn't need to be that long. Could have cut like half of that out and still told the same pointless story. Then at number 6 we have The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. This is another YA fantasy where we have this girl who is kind of a con artist pretending to heal people from health problems that they probably don't really have or health problems that are easily solved, but she pretends it's this big complicated thing. But then while she's pretending to do a spell to solve someone's health problems, she ends up calling a genie or a djinn, and then she gets pulled into this magical world with all sorts of jinns and this political stuff going on. And honestly, I know a lot of people really love this series. I found it so boring. They go on this trip to go to this magical kingdom capital, the capital of the magical world, to go and find out why she's got these powers or something. And the djinn is telling her all these stories, like the backstory of the world and the politics and the conflict, and it's just so boring to listen to. I don't know why people like it because I was so bored. And there's like these romances that just, whoa. I don't want those people to be together. I don't care about them. People who like this series are like talking about the sacrifices that the characters make. But I don't know. I don't know why I don't like it, but I found it incredibly boring. Then number 5 is another one which is probably an unpopular opinion, and that is The Diviners by Libba Bray. So The Diviners is this series set in the 20s where there are these diviners with different magical abilities and they're trying to solve these murders that are happening. And again, I just thought it was way too long and I hated the main character, Evie. Didn't understand why anyone would ever let her be involved in a murder investigation. I hated the romance between Evie and another character. It just didn't make any sense to me. And I don't know, it was a while since I read this. I can't remember all the reasons I disliked it, but I know there were a lot. And I will say though, actually, I think I'm also of the unpopular opinion that I feel like each book got better and better, and the last book was probably the best one. Whereas I've seen people who really liked the first book say that they were quite disappointed in the last book. So I guess if you don't really like the first book, maybe continue the series. But I still didn't think it was an amazing series overall. Like, there were some cool bits, but there was so much more added in. All the books were way longer than it needed to be. There's 4 books in the series. It could have been a trilogy, and each of the books could have been a much shorter one. That's my opinion. Then at number 4, we have another YA fantasy, and this is really just reminding me that even though I do like some YA fantasies, I need to be really careful about which ones I pick up, because there are certain elements that a lot of people like that I really don't like, and I need to avoid those and not just buy into the hype and pick up these books anyway. So this one is The Silence of Bones by June Her. It's meant to be like a Korean-inspired fantasy where the slave girl is helping out with these murder investigations because in their culture, men aren't allowed to touch women or even the bodies of women or any of their stuff, and so they get these slave girls to help out with the investigations and do that part of it. I didn't understand why, since she was a slave, she never really seemed to have anything, like any responsibilities hardly. Just kind of like running around trying to solve these crimes on her own, and like the mystery was boring and predictable, and I was just really bored. Just really bored. Then at number 3 we have How Rory Thorne Destroyed the Multiverse by Kay Eason. So this was supposed to be like a space opera Sleeping Beauty retelling, which sounded really cool. Sleeping Beauty is my favorite fairy tale. I love science fiction, and I especially love stuff with multiverse stuff in it, and given the title, wouldn't you think that there would be some multiverse stuff in it, wouldn't you? There was no multiverse. They kept talking about the multiverse, but they seemed to just be talking about a really big universe. Did you know the universe is actually really big? You can just use the word universe to talk about a big universe, because the universe is big. If you're going to use the word multiverse in the title, you should really have some multiverse stuff. Otherwise, that is just false marketing and people are going to be disappointed. I was incredibly disappointed with the story. Not to mention the fact that the writing was absolutely awful. That's the main thing that I remember about this. Just, it was almost impossible to understand what was happening, and it was so boring. I can't remember exactly what it was like now, but I just remember being like, why would you publish a book that is written like this? Why would you not fix it? Why? Oh, I hated this book. Such a disappointment, because I think this was on my anticipated releases one month, because it was going to be a Sleeping Beauty science fiction retelling with a multiverse elements. How could you ruin that for me? How could you ruin it? Anyway, moving on. Number 2 I was a bit sad about. So number 2 is Shifters by Jean Gilbert, which is a New Zealand author, and I actually picked this book up from a New Zealand author book fair, and I was really excited to read it because again it was another time travel one. We've got this girl who gets brought into this time travel agency which goes back in time and changes things so that the world in the future will be better. But just nothing about this time travel agency made sense. I don't know, I'm even struggling to remember it now. But it was just a disappointment. I think there were some good ideas in there, but this book I think just needed a lot more work to get where it could have been. I don't know, I don't want to say anything mean about it because you know, it's like a small New Zealand author and I'm sure they did their best. I'm sure they tried. And maybe some people would like it. It does have a fairly high average rating on Goodreads, but I think that's because it doesn't have many ratings at all, so it's probably just their friends. I'm just really sad that I didn't like this one. Whereas some of the others I'm mad about. In fact, this next one I think I'm mad about it. So this is Death and Resurrection by R.A. McAvoy. This is one that I got in a box of books a while ago from World Builders, which is Patrick Rothfuss's charity thing that he does every year. I paid for this box of books and pretty much most of them were a disappointment. In fact, one of the books was my most hated book ever. This one is a story about this Native American man who has the ability, I've kind of forgotten now, the ability to go into the afterworld and talk to people. Is that what it was? Anyway, I got halfway through it, I looked it up, it turns out it's a white author, and I am not confident that they actually talked to a Native American or got a Native American to check this. Because I don't think that it seemed like a very good representation. Now, I'm not Native American. I live in New Zealand, which is very far from there. I didn't find any Own Voices reviews, thank goodness, because I don't think you should have to read that. Just also, it was terribly written. It had some cool ideas, but I just, honestly, looking at my spreadsheet where I rate things against 5 things, I've given it 1s. Like the average rating here is 1.43. I've given it 1s for everything except that I gave it a 2 for world building and a 3 for themes and ideas. So I think it had some good ideas, but it didn't deliver on them. The characters were terrible. Oh, there were some terrible romances. The plot was awful. It didn't make any sense. The pacing, like half the time nothing was happening. The writing was really difficult to understand. And I hated the whole experience. So, worst book of the year, why not? I think that probably How Rory Thorne Destroyed the Multiverse was pretty close, but I think maybe I could see how some other people might like How Rory Thorne Destroyed the Multiverse, but Death and Resurrection is one that just, no. Anyway, those are my worst books of the year. If you have read any of those books, then I'm sorry, especially if you actually liked them, because I didn't. But do let me know down in the comments. I would love to hear your opinion, especially if they're different from mine, because maybe I just need to think about things differently. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well, and I will see you next time.